How's it going, everyone? Welcome to episode 2 of our NFL season preview. Today we're going to work on the Indianapolis Colts. Did work through the Jags last time. Going to go through the entire AFC South and discuss what the pros and cons of each team is, and see what our predictions are and how they can improve and what we expect from the season for each team. I'm going to work with the Colts today. Last season they were 9-8. They had their struggles with Carson Wentz. He'd get out there and make good plays sometimes, and then next thing you know, he's throwing a backward no look pass in the end zone, in his own end zone for that. Uh, so they had a lot of offseason moves. They got rid of Wentz, brought in Matt Ryan, which is going to do a lot for the team, obviously, but we'll get into all that. Some of their key additions that I thought were very important is that they still got Michael Pittman. They lost T.Y. Hilton in the offseason. He's a free agent. Uh, they did draft Alec Pierce in the second round. I mean, it was a much needed position, much needed depth at the position. I mean, you look here, you have Michael Pittman, and then who else? No one. They drafted Alec Pierce, Desmond Patton, Mike Strachan, Ashton Doolin. So everyone else in 2021 of their wide receiver core had 28 catches, 387 yards, and 4 touchdowns. That is not the kind of production you need from your wide receivers for sure. So that was a key addition, drafting Pierce in the second round, because they're definitely going to need some help behind Pittman. Bringing in Matt Ryan will help that, but like I said, they definitely need someone to step up besides those two. So we'll see what happens there. They then traded. Well, prior to that, they traded for Yannick Ngakoue from Oakland last year. Kind of had a revitalized season. He did have 10 sacks, 23 QB hits, and 63 pressures. The Colts only had 33 as a team last year, and he had 23 by himself. So, I'm sorry, sacks. 33 as a team last year, and he had 10 by himself. So, I mean, he's definitely gonna beef up that D line with. You got Quiddy Pay, who they're expecting to have a second year breakout. He was pretty solid last year. Continue to grow. They got DeForest Buckner and Yannick Ngakoue, and then Grover Stewart. That D line's gonna be pretty solid for sure. Going back to the draft to help out that wide receiver issue, they did draft Jelani Woods in the third round. I mean, this this draft class was not loaded with tight end talent for sure. Many people had Trey McBride, who went to the Cardinals, being the top tight end, but I mean, Jelani Woods does have a chance. I mean, especially going there with Mo Alley Cox, they got two humongous tight ends. I mean, just straight red zone targets for sure. Jelani Woods, I believe, is 6'7", so you add him in with Mo Alley Cox, and I mean, Matt Ryan can just toss it up to either one of them in the end zone. So you may see a lot of two tight end sets in the end zone for the Colts this year. Uh, Spoke about it earlier, but I mean, one of their key additions was definitely getting, Matt Ryan for sure. Brought him in, got rid of Carson Wentz. They drafted Sam Ellinger last year. I mean, he got his chance for sure, and he did not do anything. So we'll see what Matt Ryan can do. I feel like he's due for like a revitalization. He was in Atlanta and they had a horrible team. So, I mean, his story just died. No one cared to keep up with Matt Ryan because the Falcons weren't doing anything. So I think he has something still to prove, something in the tank for sure. Definitely their best quarterback they've had since Andrew Luck. So we'll see what they can do with him. There we go. I mean, it will give them also a few years to hopefully hit on someone in the draft. They have drafted quarterbacks in the last few years, and none of them have panned out. They did get the guy from Notre Dame this year, Cone. So, I mean, he can maybe learn under Matt Ryan's tutelage and hopefully gain some insight and information to the quarterbacking position, and hopefully they can build something to the future. Because, I mean, they probably got about 3 years with Matt Ryan, give or take a year or two. But, I mean, this team's ready. The rest of the team's been ready outside the wide receiver position. But the defense is definitely a championship defense. They just needed the quarterback. I mean, they had the who could have been the most valuable player in Jonathan Taylor. So is this the best running back that Matt Ryan's played with? Probably. He did have Steven Jackson early on in his career, so probably not the best offense, but best running back for sure. Uh, One of the signings that did go unnoticed really was that is not what I wanted that to do. Stephon Gilmore, they got him from free agency after the Panthers traded for him for no clear reason. But he's definitely gonna fill in that spot that they lost with the Yannick Ngakoue trade because they traded Rock Ya-Sin for Yannick Ngakoue. It was one of the few straight up player trades in the NFL. They don't do that much. It's usually a lot of draft picks that are involved. But they signed Stephon Gilmore. You know, I have on here if he can stay healthy. I mean, look out for sure because he only played 11 and then 8 games the last 2 seasons. He is 30 years old, I believe. So I mean, age could be starting to creep up on him, but definitely improvement in the cornerback position compared to Rock Ya-Sin. Put him out there. They got him out there. Definitely beef up that secondary for sure. So we'll see what they can do with it. But I mean, like I said, their defense was already solid. You add him in, it just makes them even better. They didn't have many losses this year. I mean, they lost T.Y. Hilton, but T.Y. wasn't really doing much anyways in the receiving game. They lost Carson Wentz, but I mean, how much of that is truly a loss, Uh, they lost some draft picks, I guess, to get Matt Ryan, but I mean, you got to get a proven quarterback. They're not going to do anything, especially in the AFC, without a quarterback. I mean, you look at the AFC West alone, they were better than none of those four teams without a quarterback. And I don't even know if they're better than any of them now with a quarterback. But that's to be determined, I mean, you never know what you're going to get preseason, so we'll see what happens. So the only loss they had was Rock Ya-Sin that they replaced with Stephon Gilmore, so not much loss there for sure. Uh, so I'll go over their strengths and weaknesses. I kind of discussed it here, but Jonathan Taylor, best running back in the league, he looks to continue to be the top running back in the league. You got Matt Ryan at QB, so is Jonathan Taylor even going to have bigger holes now? I mean, look what he did last year with Carson Wentz under center, and he ran for one of the best seasons we've seen in a while. You know, how often do we have a running back in the MVP conversation in the NFL? As of recent, anyways, it's not very often. I mean, he's going into his third year now. I mean, I don't know. The sky's the limit for Jonathan Taylor, especially if he stays healthy. Uh, and Frank Reich doesn't put Naheem Hines in there for half of the carries. You never know with that backfield. They did sign Tyson Williams out of Baltimore, who had a few good games in Baltimore for sure, and Philip Lindsay too. I mean, these teams they just they go crazy with their running back room. I mean, depth is key for sure, but we'll see how many carries he truly gets this season. Uh, their other main strengths that I see is their front seven. You look at their front seven, they got Kwity Paye, DeForest Buckner, Yannick Ngakoue, Darius Leonard, Bobby Okereke, and then Grover Stewart. I mean, I feel like Grover Stewart's kind of overlooked at times, especially in this front seven. But last year he had 19 tackles for loss or no gain, or sorry, over the last 2 seasons, which is the eighth most out of any defensive tackle in the NFL. So I mean, if that's your worst player in your front seven, then I mean you're going to be pretty good for sure. So I mean, I feel like their front seven's quite underrated for sure. So we'll see what they can do. I mean, nobody might not be scoring any points. If Matt Ryan can put up 17, 20 points a game, they may win quite a large amount of games for sure. Weaknesses, their O line's not what it used to be. Uh, you look at they drafted Ryman out of in the third round. Matt Pryor maybe getting time at left tackle. So I mean, I don't know. The rookie will probably get the starting job sooner than later. But I mean, that's kind of a drop off from where they were at last year. It's not the O line that it used to be for sure. Safety position, not necessarily the best. They took Nick Cross in the third round. I mean, Julian Blackman, he's solid for sure. They brought in McLeod. Uh, But I mean, he's getting a little bit older. Kari Willis, not your best option. So I mean, they could look to improve there. I mean, that front seven is definitely going to make up for the lack of talent in the secondary for sure. And then again, you go back and look at the wide receiver position. They have one proven receiver who he just started coming up last year. Prior to that, Michael Pittman, he was injured, didn't really do much. So, I mean, they may really look to Jonathan Taylor and the tight ends for sure. You might see, I know I discussed a lot about it with the Jags, might see a lot of two tight end sets with Dan Arnold and Evan Ingram, but you might see it even more here in Indy for sure, especially with this wide receiver group, unless they can prove something that we haven't seen yet for sure. You never know. I mean, it was speculated early on that the Colts could be in the market for Julio, being that Matt Ryan's there, rebuild the whole team and see what they could do. But I mean, nothing else has been said for the last month or two. So we'll see what happens. I mean, there's still other free agents out there. I mean, there's Will Fuller, there's Keelan Cole, anyone to beef up this wide receiver core. So Vegas has them projected at 9.5 wins. 9.5, that's probably right. It's either the likely winner of the division is either going to be the Colts or the Titans. We all know that. Titans probably took a few steps back this offseason. We'll discuss them later. But we're going to go through the Colts here with their schedule and predict their wins and losses. So, week 1, they play at the Texans. Are the Texans better than last year? Yeah. But are the Colts losing to them? Not a chance. There's no way they go into Houston and lose week 1 with Matt Ryan. No, this team, I feel like they're fired up, especially after their horrible loss to Jacksonville to miss the playoffs last year. With that said, they go to Jacksonville week 2. Not a chance they're going to replicate what they did in week 18 last year. Also helps that they don't have Carson Wentz turning over the ball once every other possession. Week 3, they play at home versus the Chiefs. The Chiefs, yeah, they lost Tyreek Hill. But, I mean, they did make some additions. They drafted Sky Moore, which is pretty much they're hoping to be, with him and Valdez Scantling, they're hoping to replace Tyreek Hill with that. The AFC West, I stated this in the last episode, they have to win every out-of-division game to try to keep up, just to try to get the wild card, if not the division champion, be the division champion. So I feel like the Colts, even though they're on the come up for sure this year, I don't think they win their home opener against the Chiefs. Week 4, they have the Titans. The Titans, I believe they take a step back this season. Ryan Tannehill, that experiment, it was better than what people thought. Mike Vrabel caught a lot of heat bringing in Ryan Tannehill from Miami whenever he was not doing anything in Miami for sure. So, the Titans drafted Malik Willis. Derrick Henry, he was injured last year. I mean, I doubt he'll be injured by week 4, but you never know. They lost A.J. Brown. They lost Julio, even though Julio wasn't doing too much. So I don't think the Titans can come into Lucas Oil Stadium and get a win here. So I feel like the Colts, they start the season 3-1, which is one of their better recent starts over the last few years. AFC West. So the AFC South is playing the AFC West this year. You see all the teams here will go through and play the Chiefs, Broncos, Chargers, Raiders. They go into Denver. Russell Wilson, I feel like he's going to be better this year. I feel like he was already trying to tell people that he wanted a trade. Oh, this is the list of teams that I would like to be traded to if I were to be traded, but I don't want to trade. Come on. I feel like he's going to be revitalized. Denver may not win the division. I don't think they're going to win the division, but I also don't think the Colts are going to go in and just run through every team that they face, especially going into Mile High Stadium. I think they end up getting a loss here. 3-2 is not bad going through 5 weeks. Play the Jags in week 6. Jags, they have the second most guaranteed money in the offseason. I think it's like $263 million they signed every wide receiver on the market. They're only behind the Browns, and that's just because the Browns gave Deshaun Watson hundreds of millions of dollars, fully guaranteed. So, I feel like the Jags, they may be better, but there's no way they're going to beat the Colts. Colts have a sour taste in their mouth after last season. So week 7, they go into Tennessee. I feel like this is going to be a win one, lose one type of ordeal. They already got, look, 5 divisional games within the first 7 weeks. So the beginning of the season, the Colts got to come out firing for sure. Get this early division lead. The Titans, I don't see them giving up both games though. So I feel with the drop off at O line for the Colts and the Titans defensive line, especially with Jeffrey Simmons, I feel like Jeffrey Simmons is going to get to the quarterback plenty of times, and I feel like at least the Colts drop one of two to the Titans, but to be determined for sure. Commanders, Carson Wentz comes to Lucas Oil Stadium. We know how Carson Wentz plays under pressure. He gets rattled easily. Very likely to see another end zone toss-up like he did last year against the Rams. No way the Colts lose this game to Carson Wentz. Going to week 9, they go at the Pats. The Patriots, I feel like they're due for a huge drop-off this season for sure. They still don't even have an offensive coordinator. You want Joe Judge, Matt Patricia, some combination of them being involved with the offensive play calling. Troy Brown is probably their best option, and he's the wide receivers coach. But they have no one there. Poor Mac Jones, he has no chance, I feel, to succeed in this system. So I feel like the Colts do go in there and get the win. I just feel like they're going to be chaos. Bill Belichick's system, I feel like it's starting to crumble. He has his way, and that's the only way. Week 10, they go to Las Vegas. Las Vegas made some great trades and signings. They got Devontae Adams, which was the big splash. They beefed up their D-line. Like I said, it's the AFC West. They got to get every win they can. I don't think the Colts can go in there and win. Right now, through 10 weeks, though, they're 6-4. I think if you're a Colts fan, you take 6-4 for sure. Week 11, this may be the only time of the season that the Colts have back-to-back losses. The Eagles, I feel like, I know a lot of people are high on them, but I feel like this is another team that's on the come up this year. So this might be their only back-to-back losses this season. Let's see. They play the Steelers in Week 12. Doesn't matter if it's Kenny Pickett or Mitchell Trubisky at Lucas Oil Stadium. Talked about the front 7. Gus Bradley's the D coordinator this year. I don't care how much cover 2 he plays. Neither one of those quarterbacks are putting up more than 2 touchdowns on this Colts defense for sure. So Colts get the win there. They go to Dallas in Week 13. Dallas, they lost Amari Cooper. Michael Gallup's coming off injury. Zeke is regressing as we saw last year. I don't think the Cowboys, they'll probably still win the division, to be determined, but I don't think the Cowboys are going to be anywhere the team they were last year. So I think the Colts get that win as well. Finally get to their bye week 14, which is horrible to me. You try to get, I feel like the best time is weeks 8 to 12, somewhere closer to the middle of the season. Week 14, just drawn out, which I guess it could give them that last little bit of rest before playoff push. But at this point, whenever they get to the bye, I have them sitting 2, 4, 6, 8, 8 and 5. 8 and 5 is a solid start for sure. Week 15, they go to Minnesota. I don't think them bringing in a new coach is going to be the answer there. Minnesota's just always been that middle of the road team. Could they be a little better? Could they be a little worse? Yeah. But I feel like the Colts can go in there and get that win. They're starving for a playoff berth for sure. Week 16, they play the Chargers. Again, AFC West. Chargers week 16, they may be, let's see, 15 games with a bye week. They may be 10-4 and still not even guaranteed a playoff position. That's a possibility because of the AFC West, So again, it's going to be hard for any of these AFC South teams to get any wins against AFC West. I'm sure they will, but I mean, if I had to bet on it, I would say they lose each one of those games. Week 17, they go to the Giants. We don't have to discuss the Giants. That's going to be a win. Week 18, they have the Texans at home. They open and end the season against the Texans. The Texans may be sucking loud for Stroud at this point. It depends on the Davis Mills project. If he doesn't show any promise, they're going to be tanking for sure. Week 18, they're going to be out of the playoffs. Don't care. Colts going to need a win. They're going to get the win here. So with this, I have them finishing 11-6, which would be an improvement from their 9-8 season last year. See what happens. I feel pretty confident in these picks, but 11-6, probably going to give them the division title. The only team that could challenge them is the Titans. We'll go into the Titans in a few episodes from now, but 11-6 is probably pretty promising to get this division, especially if they split with the Titans. But it's to be determined. So last few things, top 5 players in the NFL at their position that the Colts could have. I mean, Jonathan Taylor was the best running back last year. He's probably going to be a top 3 running back again this year. So, I mean, he's definitely a top 5 candidate at his position. Outside of that, Quentin Nelson. But, I mean, no sexy positions. Darius Leonard maybe, but we'll see. Top 10, I want to say Matt Ryan, but, I mean, he might not be a top 10 quarterback in the AFC just due to the lack of, the depth of amazing quarterbacks in the AFC. He could be top 10, but I mean, not with this wide receiver group. Unless they start to flourish somehow that we don't see coming, Matt Ryan's not going to be top 10. Gilmore, he could have a bounce back season, if he stays healthy. He's definitely could easily be a top 10 cornerback, but it's still up in the air, He's only played 17 of 35 games in the last 2 seasons. So we got to see him on the field for him to even be a top 10 player. Darius Leonard definitely will be a top 10 linebacker. He could get into that top 5 conversation for sure. 2021, he had a 91.1 run D as PFF score, which was the second highest since 2019 among linebackers for a single season. So, I mean, you take his run defense, possibly the best run defensive linebacker in the NFL. So definitely a top 10 linebacker for sure, maybe a top 5. See what happens. MVP candidates for this team, definitely Jonathan Taylor. Finished second last year. Could he do it again? Oh yeah. Is it possible? I feel like they may dial him back. They probably don't want to run him into the ground, especially with this running back group that they have. But he's definitely an MVP candidate for sure. Other than that, most improved player on the team, I feel like it could be Matt Ryan. I feel like people thought he dropped off somewhat in Atlanta, being that he didn't have the weapons around him. So we'll see what he can do in a new environment. I feel like he feels rejuvenated, revitalized, wants to prove to the world he's still an MVP caliber quarterback, even if he's not MVP. A top 10 quarterback. So we'll see. Drop off candidate. Discussed this earlier, but I still feel like it could be Stephon Gilmore. I feel like he's going to be boom or bust, especially at 30, 31 years old. His age could catch up to him with the injuries, or he could be the Stephon Gilmore of old in New England. We'll see. We'll see what happens. The most intriguing thing to me is to see if this team can finally put it together. They have their quarterback, so they don't have an excuse at quarterback. After going through the carousel over the last few seasons with Wentz, Jacoby Brissett, after Andrew Luck left, it kind of just fell apart. But Matt Ryan's their best option they had. They should be able to make the playoffs. If they don't make the playoffs with him, then they got to stop just throwing their hat in the ring for the random quarterback carousel. But outside of that, this team does look promising this year. I feel like they can definitely win the AFC South for sure, especially with their top 3 players and Quentin Nelson, Jonathan Taylor, and Darius Leonard. Just a few statistics on them. Jonathan Taylor had an 87 PFF grade last year. Best in the season. Best in the season. Obviously, he was the best running back. So, I mean, it's no surprise there. Quentin Nelson, he's second in PFF wins above replacement since 2018. So that's why, I mean, he could easily be another top 5 candidate at his position or any offensive line position. And Darius Leonard, again, another top 5 quarterback. So the 3 best players, I feel like they're going to carry the team again, but you just need Matt Ryan to step up. So yeah, I have them going 11-6, hopefully competing for the division title. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Still trying to get over the sickness. I appreciate you watching. If you did watch, feel free to leave a like, comment, tell me what you liked, what you didn't like, what I can work on, and catch you in the next one.